Hey, everybody. Today we have Diego Granados in the podcast, and I'm really excited to learn from Diego. To talk a little bit about Diego's background, he is an AI product manager at Google. Prior to this, he was a senior product manager at LinkedIn and Microsoft and has had 15 plus years of experience in this space. Today, I'm really excited to talk to Diego about product management mindset, AI, different kinds of AI product manager, and his book, The AI Product Playbook. So with that, Diego, welcome. And if you can share with the audience what you've been working on these days, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, Vivek. It's a pleasure to be here. So like you mentioned, I've been in the AI space for about 6 years now. So this is before ChatGPT made AI cool again. And when I was at Microsoft as an AI product manager, which by the way, I didn't have any previous knowledge about AI. I didn't have any technical background. We can talk about that. But I had to ramp up with a team of data scientists in being a product manager and launching AI products. We worked a lot on just understanding how do we use data and how do we use machine learning to make predictions to make our customers successful. And these are things that you may or may not have heard about in the context of machine learning. Things like we were predicting churn, we were making product recommendations. That from a user perspective is like going to Netflix and seeing which movies to watch next. That's a product recommendation. And then, of course, businesses are interested in things like my customer's not going to purchase again from me. So a churn recommendation and then lifetime value as part of the things that we would predict for them. Then Gen AI comes into play. I moved to Google. I'm part of the Google Cloud team, and I'm the product owner for, the product manager for the portfolio of notebook products. So these are data science notebooks. For the tech folks in the audience, these are Jupyter Lab notebooks, where essentially data scientists do their job, do machine learning, and do their ML workflows. And my job is to provide them with both the tools as a developer experience, but also the agent and AI within the notebooks to make them more productive, help them do their job easier, better, and faster, and access data from across all different places. And so that's what I've been doing lately since Gen AI and since I switched to Google Cloud.
Amazing. Diego, a lot of product managers, business analysts, product owners in our community, they are nervous or uncertain about AI replacing different parts of their jobs. So from your perspective, what's the real risk? What's the opportunity? Why should people care?
Yeah, I think when ChatGPT started, everybody was excited because you would play with it and it would answer questions. Sometimes it'll be funny, it would hallucinate, and people would be like, "Oh, look at how bad it is at answering my questions." And it was a haha moment that you would tweet or X nowadays. But then it has evolved so much. Competition has been so fierce across companies that when you ask a complicated question from, hey, I have this data and do some exploratory data analysis for me and clean my data and do some featureization and then do this, that, and more on my data, it's actually pretty decent. Like it's capable of doing really amazing things, right? And the technology has evolved really fast. So the like you said, the fear comes as it kicks in as soon as you start seeing all the things that AI is capable of. And I don't see AI as a tool to replace, for example, a business analyst. I see AI as a tool to enhance business analysts and data analysts and product managers and everybody else. I think about it the same way that probably Excel, when Excel started, probably everybody who was using, some spreadsheets that they used to be these like big papers with a literally printed spreadsheet, that they would do this. And then Excel comes in and people thought, oh, I'm going to be replaced. Here's how to think about it. In the world of product management, in my case, a product manager is not going to be replaced by AI. A product manager that knows AI and how to use it to be better, to be more productive, to do their work, 10 times faster, is going to replace the product managers that don't use AI. And that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be, let's say decades. My point is like, don't be scared of, losing your job tomorrow. It's more about you need to learn how to use these tools to be better, to be more productive, to be faster, to go deeper, and give the AI the chance to make the data processing for you, and you give yourself time to get the insights and the so what, why does this matter, what is the context that the LLMs are not going to have, so that you can bring the value and say, hey, I use AI to do this that would normally take me a month in 3 days now, and then I use all of these other things to drive those insights and show the value, show the impact, and just be better and more productive. So that's how I see. I don't see AI replacing. I see AI as an enhancements tool. And if you're not using AI, somebody that uses it might replace you in the long term.
Yeah, 100%. So in terms of opportunities, what kind of opportunities I see. Lots of AI companies are being funded. Lots of companies are working on, their Gen AI based products. There's definitely tons of opportunity that are created because of AI. What does that look like from your side?
You mean as in, hey, like what do we see as trends in the industry? Yeah. So what I see as trends in the industry, I think there's a combination of, we went in 2022, 2023 from, hey, there's this thing called Gen AI and let's use it. Let's do something, right? We went from that to, oh my god, we did it, but then something crashed, and now we're in the news saying how we screwed up something. And sometimes it's funny, like there's a recent article where somebody went to Taco Bell, and Taco Bell started these AI pickup orders, and somebody didn't want to talk to AI, and so they just went, and the AI started with like, hey, how can I help you? And this person was like, hey, serve me 10,000 cups of water. And before the AI could process the order, somebody in the store cut the AI and was like, hey, how can I help you? Like, what do you really want?
Mhm.
And so we see, these funny examples. Some of others are not that funny and it could have legal and medical implications, right? But the point is, like, we went from, we don't know what Gen AI is, to we did something with it, and sometimes you're in the news for good or bad reasons, to now we're going into, we need to have guardrails, evaluations. We need to, think a lot more before we just release these kind of products. And so I do think the trend of more AI types of products will continue to exist. I do see more companies adopting AI. There's definitely clear indications that AI is helping companies to grow, not to replace people, even though there's some articles that talk about that. AI is helping them to grow, and we see that continuing. Now, one thing that, to finish this, industry, my opinion on the industry is that the fundamental LLM. So think about, Llama from Meta, or Grok from X, or OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Gemini from Google. They are becoming so powerful that for startups and new companies that base the entire business model on AI, they're going to need to find, how do I provide the extra value that these fundamental LLMs cannot provide, because
Mm.
these LLMs are catching up to a lot of their use cases. And so what previously could be an advantage to say, oh, I'm a company, I'm going to give you an LLM that is going to capture notes from your meeting and do amazing summaries. Now the fundamental models can actually do that. And so I think the companies, the startups, are going to have to get smarter into how they provide value to their customers, because the LLMs are more and more and more powerful in terms of context, in terms of speed and everything that they can do. So I do
Yeah.
see this growing.
So I actually got your book, the AI Product Playbook. I'm really having a lot of fun reading it. I'm actually reading it and then also going through it on Audible. Give us the reason, what we know. Why did you feel the need to write this book? From a perspective of, some of the things that maybe current PMs or aspiring PMs are missing in the AI conversation.
Yeah. So if you think about the world of AI, especially, I'm a product manager, and the intention of the book was to help product managers, but the reality is that the goal is to help everybody who's trying to get their first steps into the world of AI machine learning. So quick anecdote. When I started my job at Microsoft, I was hired to do something, and then 3 months later we got reorged. They stripped away all our user designers and our front-end engineers, and they gave us data scientists, and suddenly we were an AI and machine learning team. And I had no idea, no clue what AI and machine learning was, other than articles in TechCrunch and other blog posts. And so I had to deliver AI and machine learning features without knowing AI and machine learning. And so it was a very steep ramping curve for me, because I had to, do online courses. Kaggle has fantastic free courses, but it's, self-paced. I had to spend tons of afternoons and nights talking with my data scientists to ask the very, very basic questions. Separately, I did a master's degree at Georgia Tech in computer science, and I focused it on AI machine learning because I wanted to understand what exactly I was doing at my job. And then that led me to believe that, hey, AI machine learning is really cool, but it's also really hard to grasp if you're not into AI machine learning from a engineering or data science discipline. And so when Gen AI happened, when Gen AI started, especially on product managers, is yes, a lot of product managers before ChatGPT, we became AI product managers by accident, but we were only, a few. And now suddenly with LLMs, that they are so accessible for anybody to build something on top of it. Like if you think about it, it's, prompting the agent. then suddenly a lot of PMs found themselves in the world of being an AI product manager without ever working in the world of AI. And so when a data scientist would come to them and say, "Hey, we have an accuracy of 80%, but then these other metrics XYZ in the world in the traditional machine learning would be precision, recall, F1 of zero point 0.7, do we launch?" Then PMs would be like, "Well, what is that?" Right? It's like, what exactly are you talking about? And so LLM opened the world to having a ton more people, especially in product management, to now becoming AI PMs without necessarily giving them the instructions or the fundamentals of what AI product manager entails and what AI is. So, long story short, the goal of the book and the reason why we wrote it, me and my co-founder Marilyn Nika, is we wrote it because we saw a need that people were getting into the world of AI, especially from a building products perspective, without having the fundamentals, the basic of here's what machine learning is, and more importantly, here's why it matters to you. Here's the kind of decisions you're going to make. Here's the kind of challenges you're going to face, and here's how, as a product manager, you can use these tools, or as a business analyst or data analyst, or what does this mean for you, translating from the world of AI to how you act on it. And my goal was, without a single equation in the book that you had to memorize or learn or understand deeply, so it's explaining machine learning and how it works without getting into the math, which could be always intimidating for someone who's not an engineer or a data scientist, like I was before I got into the world of AI.
Amazing. So you have described different product management path, AI product management path, which is, AI enhanced PM, AI experienced PM, and AI builder PM. Can you further describe what you mean by these different kind of PMs?
Yeah, so you're right. So what we did in the book is we divided in three parts. We started with, you first need to speak the language of AI, so that regardless of what type of product manager you are or which type of company you join, if you're going to be working on AI products or using AI products, we want to teach you to speak the language, the very basics. Then, your career in AI and what this mean, and how does your role evolves with the world of AI. And then, of course, going from the theory to impact. So making sure that now that you understand the fundamentals, you understand how does that impact your job and the products in the company. So we've seen trends of three different types of product managers, and there's some overlap there, but is you have the AI experiences product manager, and these are typically product managers who they own some surface, some product that customers can use or interact with, and there's going to be an AI feature. The easiest example to think about this is you go into a website, and that website has a chatbot. So the AI experiences PM is the product manager in charge of the website and inputting the chatbot over there. And it could be like a support chatbot, right? You ask questions about a product, or you ask questions about, your order or whatever. And the AI experiences PM, they don't necessarily understand to the full extent of how it works, how the chatbot works, how it was trained, how it was tuned, how it has the context. But they definitely care about, hey, this has to be a nice experience. And when someone clicks on the chatbot, this should happen. The chatbot should greet you. The chatbot should be able to respond this, and that. There should be buttons. So they care about the experience of the user interacting with the AI. And ultimately, while they don't necessarily care about all the details, they have to know a little bit about, for example, when these data scientists come to this PM and tell them, hey, the evaluation scorecard throw these metrics, do we launch or not? They have to understand the very basics, at least, of what it means to have a good result in machine learning, especially in the world of large language models. Then you have the AI builder PM. And so there's a counterpart to those that work on user experience, which is you're building the models, whether it's traditional machine learning, like I was doing at Microsoft, and you work on creating the platform that is going to help the rest of the company or certain teams or even your own team to say, oh, we're going to train models, we're going to do product recommendations, we're going to do upsells, cross sells, we're going to do churn predictions, lifetime value, and a bunch of other types of traditional machine learning models, reinforcement learning, deep learning, all of that into one platform. And then all the other internal teams at the company can be served from that. So you're working on those. Or nowadays, you could be working at Google, OpenAI, Meta, and be working on the LLM models and producing them to serve the rest of the companies, but also the internal companies as well. So these are more technical. You do need to have the fundamentals of data science and machine learning. Typically, yes, you do have to be a data scientist, or at least have maybe more of a formal education, because you'll be working day to day on producing the models themselves. And then you have a third variant of this, which which is probably the biggest one and the one that overlaps with the other two, which is you are an AI enhanced product manager. This means that you may not necessarily work on products that are going to have some AI features, or you're not going to be the PM launching those features, but you're using AI to be much more productive. From, maybe you use some LLMs to help you write strategy documents or PRDs or something like that, or you are feeding into some LLM all the bugs from customers to classify them into specific categories, or you're using it to reply to an email from the VP. You're using LLMs to be faster, to be more productive, to be more accurate, to help you be 10 times better as a product manager. So it could be an overlap. And the idea is that we're trying to help people understand, especially if you're new to AI, to understand, hey, there's people who use AI as product managers and they are 10 times better, 10 times faster, 10 times everything. There's PMs who are going to be the entry point for users, and they're going to build experiences for them. And then there's going to be PMs that are going to build those models, and you can choose whichever you want, and depending on the path you choose is the type of how you get into that role, education, and all those things. So that's what we touch up in the book in the Charter Your Career, about trying to understand just what is the landscape looks like for somebody in product management who wants to get into these different AI PM roles.
Thank you. What I'm curious is what level of AI understanding does a PM actually needs to have as a AI enhanced PM and a AI experienced PM to be able to effectively add some value?
Yeah, I think the AI enhanced PM that uses AI to be 10 times better, 10 times faster, 10 times more productive. I think the understanding is more about what tools should I use and how do I use them to actually be more productive? Because the other thing that could happen is you try to use everything at the same time in AI, and you spend up more time setting up environments and setting up accounts than actually using them. And so I think the AI enhance is much more about just clearing the noise and really focusing on which parts of your job are the ones that LLMs can really help you. And that's your level of understanding. The AI experiences PM that focuses on, I have some experience for my customers and I'm going to use AI, or I'm going to release an AI feature in those for my customers. I may not necessarily have to understand how the ML was trained or which data was used to run evaluations. I may not necessarily have to know the details of what something like labels and inference is, but I do need to understand what matters to the user. And what matters to the user are things like, is this going to be slow? So things like latency. Is this going to be accurate? Is it going to hallucinate? Is it going to have the right tone for me? Is it going to pull up my account and be connected to everything else? Is it going to remember me, the next time that I come in? And so those are the kind of things that you have to think about. What does the user care about when they interact with an LLM? And if you pay attention to those, then when you go and talk to the LLM team or the AI team with the other product managers and data scientists, it's easier for you to tell the story about, this is what the user needs and here's what we need to achieve. And then they will go and work with the metrics and the numbers and evaluations to help you with that. But you need to have a story. You need to understand, here's what my customers or my users want and what they need when they interact with AI. AI tends to be a black box. So the questions for yourself is, how are you going to help users gain trust in whatever AI experiences you give to them? So that's the kind of depth that you need as an AI experiences PM to launch features into the market.
Mm. So, Diego, for somebody who is early in their PM career or BA or project manager, and they're interested to build a career in AI, and we're seeing a lot of the roles that are in the product area, what's path is the most realistic for them, and what's your reasoning?
Yeah, the way that I think about it is, AI product manager are two different things. One thing is to be a product manager, the other is to work in AI products. And so from whatever position you are in today, if you are, for example, a business analyst, and you're in a company that doesn't do AI and doesn't do product management, you need to start putting together a roadmap for yourself on how do you get there. On one side is, how are you going to be more fluent in AI and start working on projects that have to do with AI, because the reality is that LLMs made it now so simple to start something that you don't even need anything too complicated to actually launch something out there to the market. So how are you going to start training yourself in the world of AI? Then the second part is, how are you training yourself to become a product manager? And so don't treat this as point A is I'm a business analyst at this company, point B is AI product manager. You need to treat this as maybe point B is going to be, well, I move as a business analyst to a company that actually does AI because mine is not doing it. And then point C is maybe I become a product manager inside my own company, or maybe some role that is closer, like as an example, product marketing. And then point D is becoming a product manager in AI products, because now I'm working at an AI company that is doing, AI. I'm doing AI, so now I become a product manager. It's not a linear thing. There's many jumps in between. The biggest advantage that you could have in trying to move as an AI product manager is putting together a plan of what are the different steps that I can take to get there, versus just saying I'm going to go from whatever I am today with no product management and no AI experiences to becoming an AI product manager, because that's going to be a huge, huge, huge jump. And you want to start with small steps that today sounds like a lot of work, a lot of time, but ultimately it's going to pay off.
Amazing. When we are looking at the life cycle of these AI-driven products, right? Let's say if there's a chatbot or if it's a conversational AI product, SaaS product, how is the product development life cycle differ when there's AI added to the product?
Yeah, the biggest difference when AI comes into the mix is that if for example, this is a very, very naive example, but let's say that we are creating a simple button that when you push it, it shows a text that says success. That's all it does. I push the button, it says success, right? No AI, no machine learning, no nothing. In the world of software development, that means that some of the engineers will have to build a button. They will have to make the interaction that when this gets pushed, then a text message appears. And then somebody's going to have to build a unit test for it and say, well, if I push the button twice, what happens? Maybe show the text only once. And so we program for that, and we make sure that that doesn't deviate. And so we make some test cases for it. And then we launch it, people click on it, and the text shows. It's very deterministic. It's A, B, C. That's all it does, right? If I don't click the button, nothing happens. If I click it multiple times, only text shows once. That's it. There's nothing else you can do. In the world of AI, especially nowadays with Gen AI and chatbots, I can ask, let's say that this is a company that delivers packages. I can go in and say, hey, where's my package? And it could ask me questions like, oh, what's your order number, your address, blah, blah, whatever. And then it's going to pull my data and then tell me about my package. But I could also say, hey, I want to order, a burger. What is it going to do? Right? You don't know. And you could say, well, I'm going to program it so that it doesn't actually do anything outside of package tracking. Then I could be like, okay, so here's another, thing. Help me track 1,000 packages that correspond to this zip code. Well, then it's like, okay, no, we should not do that. Let's actually block so that you cannot just do, the whole zip code. Okay, what about, the entire state? And so we can start getting into this discussion of what are all the things that could go wrong. And my philosophy is, if users can break it, they will break it. And you have to be ready for it to fail, not for you to basically safeguard against all potential failures. You have to be ready for that. And the way to do that is you're going to have to think about the life cycle, the development life cycle of AI products is not anymore A, B, C, D. Is now, what is the data that we're using? How are we training these models? And if it's a LLM, how are we tuning the models? Are we using RAG, retrieval augmentation generation, which is it's going to grab context from somewhere, and what context is it getting? And then what type of corner cases and red flags and happy paths do we have? What are the evaluations that we do? And you're going to start building a lot more on the data and on evaluating the LLMs, because ultimately doing the chatbot, again, from a software engineering perspective, is a chatbot, and people type and people click send. But all the behavior of the LLM is probabilistic, is not deterministic anymore. So there's probabilities, and you have to account for good probabilities and bad probabilities. And so you could say this will take 2 months. And if your evaluations, if your data, if everything goes wrong, like in the example of Taco Bell, where somebody ordered 10,000 cups of water, nobody at Taco Bell probably thought somebody's going to do this crazy thing. Then your development timeline is unknown. As a product manager, you need to give it boundaries. You need to give certain expectations and try to account for as much as you can. But the reality is that once that you launch, until you see your users using your feature, you have no idea what they're going to do. And you have to, there's life cycle process after launching is you need to continuously evaluate. You need to continuously look at metrics, continuously look at what users are doing to keep refining and setting guardrails to your LLM process. So it is the fact that it's probabilistic means that there's so much more work that you need to do to make sure that you have a successful launch and you don't appear in the headlines of any blog article because something went really, really bad.
Yeah. Curious, Diego. So the life cycle is different. You're looking at different metrics. You're thinking about guardrails in a very different way. You're thinking about the experience in a very different way when it comes to AI part. How do you think about what are the skill set, mindset, attitude of successful AI enhanced product manager
Yeah.
working in an AI empowered product?
Yeah, I think that for anybody who's working on AI products mostly, or if you're thinking about getting into AI products, you have to start thinking more about the data. And a big chunk of the world of AI is data. And it's things like, from very easy questions like, hey, do we have enough data? And the answer could be yes, we have 1 million records. Like, great. But then you start getting into, well, is it the right data? Do we have permission to use the data? Is it data that could be, a potential problem? Like you could be a bank institution and suddenly in your data you have things like race and income level and a bunch of other things that could be problematic. So are we using protected class data that we shouldn't be using? Then you start getting into the ethical part of it. Like, for example, should we have some sort of like automated scanning of resumes to hire at our company? It's like probably LLMs can do a good job, but is it really what we should do? And so you start getting in the world of AI, you don't think anymore of like, this is the user problem and here's what I'm going to do to solve it and customers will be happy. Is like, here's a problem and LLM or AI seems to be, here's a problem, here's a solution. AI seems to be a good fit for the solution. Now let's consider everything about AI before we say, yes, this is exactly how we're going to solve it. So you have to change your mindset from, let's just do something quick and dirty and solve the problem and move on and keep growing, to now understanding, is AI a good fit for this problem? And if it is, how are we going to get the data, make sure that everything about the data is good? How are we going to make sure that everything around the process, we do a good job at evaluating whether this AI feature is ready to launch? The evaluation metrics and everything points to like, yes, this is the way to go. So your mind shift has to be a lot more probing and asking questions and almost like playing devil's advocate against your own feature versus just saying AI is really cool, put an LLM, launch it.
Interesting. I'm curious. I'm sure so you are an AI builder right now in the role, right? And you've also built AI experiences. But just talking about the AI enhanced product management, right? You said that by using AI, you can have 5x, 10x gains on your productivity. Where have you seen those gains in your workflows that you can share of?
Yeah, of course. I think that the mind shift of the AI enhanced people, because I don't think this just applies to product manager, is that you have to look at AI as Excel. Excel is a tool. Excel is not going to do the job for you. You're going to have to go in there and input the context, the metrics, everything. So if you're afraid of AI, it's like being afraid of Excel. And sure, LLMs can do much more for the context of creating content. Sure, I see that and somebody saying that. But the point is like LLMs are tools and they don't imagine new content. They are probabilities and they are guessing. They have a probability of what the next word is going to be. They're not imagining something and creating something from scratch. It's like they have data and they have output. And so you have to shift your mindset to, yes, LLMs are, or AI in general is going to help you. So as an AI enhanced person, you have to think about your day-to-day job or your routines. And so if there's, for example, if there's someone who spends a lot of time writing emails, the LLM is not going to replace you and write emails for you, but you can train an LLM to write in your style, in your form, in your same in the same almost like format, so that when an email comes to you, you can feed the email and then to that LLM. It could be ChatGPT, Gemini, and then say, hey, something like, hey, I have this email. Here's the 3-4 points that I want to make, and I want to use a tone of very professional because this is for my VP. And so the LLM is going to help you with things like that. That's a very basic example, but the point is you need to identify what are the things that work for you. For me, very concretely, and to give some tangible examples, I have chats with Gemini. One of them is around context, products, and basically strategy. So I've basically fed Gemini with a bunch of information about my products, about my writing style. I give it examples of like, here's a great strategy document, here's a bad strategy document. I gave it examples of like, here's a good explanation of why a product is successful, bad explanation of why it fails. And then I started saying things like, configurations like, hey, my audience is always going to be, internal employees to my company. They have all of this context. So I want us to focus on ABC parts of this type of problems. And then when I want to draft a new strategy document, I don't start from scratch. It already has all of the context of my products. So I focus a lot more on saying things like, hey, we're going to write a new strategy document. Here's, all the details that you need to know from the past quarter or the past 6 months about my product. Let's focus on A, B, C, D, E, F, G points. And that's where we should go next, because here's what competitors are doing. And so what the LLM helps me is I don't need to think about, here's a blank document, start writing it. Now it has all of the context and all of the feelers for the document, and I just focus on, this is where my strategy should go. And so I don't start from scratch, and that in itself, it's a huge time saver. And just like that, I have something for PRDs, I have something for emails, for emails to customers, for internal FAQs. And so I break my work into what are the things that take me the most amount of time, right? Let me give you another example. Another example is that we receive customers sometimes great emails, sometimes we receive complaints, we receive bugs, we receive support tickets. And so instead of me just going out there every quarter and saying, okay, you know what, I need to look at what are the bugs and things that they've logged or that we've received to start putting together my roadmap, I just throw all of those things to Gemini and then ask Gemini to help me categorize, to help me look at how much time it took us to close things and whether we've solved it and so on and so forth, to have a starting point of like, I don't need to go and do individually each and every single bug that is out there. So for AI enhanced person, I think it's a lot more about thinking, what are the parts of my job that take the most amount of time? And there's probably some product feature or some LLM out there that could help you cut at least in half the amount of time of what you do. And I think that's the shift in the mindset of like, this is a tool, how do I use it to be more productive?
Amazing. Diego, you've also produced some great work in terms of helping people interview better, and you produced a course on that as well. So from a interviewing lens, let's say if you're giving advice to a younger Diego who was entering the job market and fairly new for APM role, what would be your advice? Somebody who's just getting their hands wet with AI tools, with this new way of working, what advice do you have?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to step out of the interview for a moment. Can we change the question? Like, I don't want to focus on on interviews and interview courses anymore, and I also can't really talk much about that. But I'm
Okay.
happy to, like, if we reframe the question of like, hey, career advice, I can talk about AI in even in interviews, like just brush on it. But I'd love
Mm,
to shift the focus on that if
mm.
possible.
Yeah. So, Diego, what advice do you have for a younger APM or aspiring APM who is learning AI, and how do you want them to manage their learning?
Yeah, I think that AI here is another great place where it can help, because if you think about your career, for example, if you think about, hey, I want to grow up in my career in my same company, like getting to the next level, AI is a really, really helpful tool, because one of the things that you can do, something that I did on my own, is I grabbed what is the next level requirements for my job. Then I grabbed my current requirements for my job. I grabbed all the documents, everything that I did, fed it to an LLM. And then I was like, all right, what am I missing? What are the skills that I'm missing or that I'm not showing? Because I cannot go to my boss and say, hey, I've done everything. Just, take my word for it. But if I created documents, and in the world of product management, PRDs, presentations, strategy documents, so on and so forth, that shows that I've done the next level, then it's easier for my manager to advocate, yes, you need to get promoted. But even if you're planning to say, no, I actually don't want to grow up in my job, I actually want to grow out and go somewhere else or become a product manager, or I have upcoming interviews, or I'm just going to start recruiting. One advice that, for example, I gave someone some time ago when this LLM thing started to happen is that he applied to different jobs and he was a perfect fit for a role, and he got rejected. And the feedback was, we don't think you're qualified, and so we had to pass. He was like, what do you mean I'm not qualified? I'm like, okay, let's do something. Grab your resume, throw it at an LLM, grab the job description, throw it at an LLM, and ask it, am I qualified? And the answer was, no, you're missing all of these things. So I'm like, okay, that's a very easy way that you can use AI today, is grab your resume, grab the job description, and just ask, would I be qualified for this? Now, there's a bias of LLMs that they tend to be people pleaser. So they will mostly say like, oh, you're really qualified, but you're missing, these 2-3 things. So just be careful with that. But my point is like, it's a good way to start practicing. The other thing is the same thing goes for interviews. If you're practicing for interviews, again, you can throw, here's a company that I'm interviewing with, here's a role, the job description that I'm interviewing with, here's a type of role, here's, from internet, the common questions, throw everything at an LLM and just ask things like, ask me questions that you would ask me if you were the interviewer, and imagine that you were, a senior director or a hiring manager. Or, hey, my answer, I'm thinking about touching ABC points. Tell me why it's wrong, or tell me why it's right, or help me improve it. And so it is not going to be perfect. Again, it's going to be a people pleaser. So most of the time, it's going to say yes to you, and like, you're wonderful, and Vivek, you're the most amazing interviewee ever in the face of the world. But it's a starting point to say, okay, what are the key points that I'm missing, or that the LLM is spotting in my resume, in my interview prep, in my career search? So again, I think LLMs are a tool, and you don't have to go to overcomplicated products. You can literally start with ChatGPT, Gemini, Llama, whatever you prefer, and just throw context at it. The most important thing about AI in the world of Gen AI is the context. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Awesome. So I get this question a lot from the audience. There are a lot of folks who are just, uh, actually in college as well. Do you think, as a product manager, do you think you need to go to college and have a college degree to become a successful product manager?
That is a great question. I think that education is one of the best investments that you can ever do in your life. I am fortunate to have a college degree. I am fortunate that I paid myself with very expensive loans that I repaid, an MBA from Duke University. And then I enrolled in a second master's degree, computer science, in machine learning by Georgia Tech, which was thankfully much cheaper than the MBA, but I still paid for it. And I don't come from a place where somebody could have paid that for me. Like I took loans and I gambled on myself, and I was like, well, if I'm not able to get a good job, then that's it. Like I'm not gonna be able to repay this. There's people that I work with and that I have worked with at different companies who don't have that, and they're there, and they're sometimes levels above myself. That doesn't mean they're better or worse. That means they've done a great job managing their career, and how they represent themselves in the industry. Having college, having degrees is not going to be the answer to becoming a product manager or a great product manager. It is going to open doors for you. It's going to give you knowledge. It's going to give you networks. It's going to help you along the way. But there's going to be circumstances where some people just can't continue for life reasons. And that also doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to be a product manager. Sure, sometimes it could seem harder, and in reality, it could also be harder, but it doesn't mean that you cannot make it. It just means that you're going to have to take a different path. And I know so many people that have so many different paths especially into product management, that college plus MBA plus another degree does not equal product management.
Awesome. My last question for you, Diego. Why are you so passionate? What's so cool about product management? Why are you so passionate about this space and AI product management right now?
Yeah, I think that before ChatGPT, I thought it was really cool. I'll tell a story of why I fell in love with AI product management. So when I was at Microsoft, we were working on, like I said, a churn prediction, and other models like opportunity scoring and lifetime value and product recommendation and so on and so forth. And so one of the projects that we did is we basically told one customer, hey, we were doing a proof of concept, and we made a list as a proof of concept for that customer to show them the kind of models that we were building. Listen, you have a sales force of, I think it was 50 people or 100 people. It was very low. And they had like 5,000 leads or 10,000 leads. And they were like, we just can't do this. Like, we can't focus on everyone. And so we tell the customer, hey, give us your data. And the result or the answer or the output for them was, here's the list of the customers that you should focus on. Right? We did some propensity scoring of like which one was more propensed to become a customer from those leads. And we said, here's the top 500. Ignore the thousands others. If you focus on these 500, they're going to become great customers. Other reasons, this was like a multi-deal, multi-competition of companies. We didn't get that customer. They moved to a competitor. But 6 months after we gave them that, they emailed back to my team. And they called us and they say, hey, just wanted to share the story that I took your list, and every time somebody would ask me like, hey, which people or which potential customers do we focus on? I didn't tell anybody that I had your list, but I just kept giving them names and the reasons. And turns out that 90 something percent of those actually became customers, and we made a successful year. And so he was really grateful about us giving them that output. And so to me, that moment was like, we predicted the future. And it sounds weird, but that was a prediction of the future, of saying, if you do these numbers, you're going to be successful. And I thought that was really, really cool to feel that future prediction, or that power to predict the future, right? And that's why I fell in love with AI and machine learning. And I think the added touch of product management is that I am the person in the team who has to think about, how is the user going to interact with this feature? How do I translate whatever my data scientists and machine learning engineers are working on, so that the user can trust us, can trust the answer, but more importantly, that they see the value in this, that we make their lives easier, better, make their work faster, that they see the value, or in the cases of like my experience at Microsoft, that we predict the future for them. And so being that in the middle of customers and the team, the engineering team, and also being responsible for these kind of things, to me, that's honestly really exciting. So I don't know, that's what I love about AI and product management.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Diego. I really appreciate I got a lot of stuff from this conversation, and I really, really appreciate your insights.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Always a pleasure to be here.